Welcome to The Illuminators, Changemakers in Senior Living, the podcast that explores the past, present, and future of senior living through the eyes of those who are transforming it from the inside out. I'm your host, Matt Maudley, Chief Executive Officer of Illuminus, a faith-based, not-for-profit that aims to transform senior care for the better. Join me as I seek to reimagine the aging experience through an ongoing dialogue, where together we'll shed light on current issues and shine a light on a brighter tomorrow. Hello and welcome back. This week I'm joined by Emily Kuehl, a brand manager here at Illuminus. Emily has played a leading role in managing the rebrand of Illuminus. So Emily, thank you for coming and joining me on this podcast today. The first question that I have for you is what drew you into senior living?
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile taking a step back before I applied for the job at Illuminus, first as a marketing assistant. So my grandma actually lived at Marquardt for 6 years, and I also volunteered at the health center for probably a year or so with one of my friends, and her mom actually still works at Illuminus. So it's just funny, thinking back and then now fast forward, I'm here. So it was my last semester, senior year of college, looking for a job in marketing, and the marketing assistant popped up at Marquardt. So applied, thought I'd be there for a couple of years, get some experience, just that first job out of college. And then that definitely took me a different direction. And I'm still here today, 7 years later, now as brand manager.
And what was your first impression of our organization when you started?
Yeah, at first I didn't know a lot about senior living, really had no experience in marketing, that it's like, I'll give it a try. It's a small organization. Well, come to find out, learned a lot more that it was a lot larger organization. And as you know now, we've grown and tripled the size since when I started. So again, I thought I would just get some experience and move on, but I was completely wrong. Not only in senior living, I learned so much, but on the marketing side too in this role. It was amazing, the amount of opportunities and learning experiences in this.
Yeah, when I first met you, you were thinking you'd stay in senior living for 6 months and then you'd be on to another marketing role.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's been a lot of fun to work with you because I don't think either of us ever thought that we'd go through and rebrand an entire senior living organization.
Yeah, if you would have asked me even a year into being the marketing assistant at the time, I would not picture we would be sitting here right now.
So what's been the biggest surprise, do you think, in your role?
I think two things stand out. The first would be just how senior living, or how we view senior living from an Illuminus standpoint, that it's not how everyone else thinks it is. It's not the stereotypical thing when you think senior living. We're trying to, change that narrative and think of it as a new light, as a new chapter for individuals, So I think that's the thing that stands out most from an Illuminus standpoint. And just all the career opportunities in senior living. It's not just the clinical side of things. It's not being a nurse, a CNA. There's marketing, there's finance, life enrichment, you name it, and the list goes on.
Right. It's been quite a journey, as you and I have talked about.
Yeah.
What do you think's been one of the biggest challenges?
I think from a rebranding standpoint is when we've been trying to figure out how to unify all of our communities under the Illuminus umbrella. So many communities carry history, deep roots in the communities, and how do we honor that, but also bring them on board to live under the Illuminus umbrella? And, as we know right now, some of our communities are rebranded, some are being worked through,
Right.
So I think that's the biggest thing of just trying to balance their community and then the Illuminus brand too.
Yeah. Can you just walk us through the rebranding process, the journey that we were on?
Yeah, so that is going back to 2019, 2020, give or take. I feel like we were at that crossroads of we were continuing to grow, but we had no idea who we were, what we wanted to be.
Yeah.
How do we bring it all together? So we met Planet Propaganda at the time, and I think the biggest thing that stood out to us is we didn't want to be like everyone else.
Right.
We didn't want to be a typical Nothing against other senior living organizations, but we wanted to stand out and not blend in with the rest. So at that time, we approached Planet Propaganda, an agency in Madison, and, we wanted that fresh perspective. They didn't have any healthcare experience at the time, and that's what we wanted. So in that journey, we started with rebranding the management company, which is now Illuminus, our home and community-based services. It's now Common Heart. And then we talked about how we want to strategize and rebrand all the communities that we manage. And then we publicly launched September 20th, 2022. I will never forget that date. But yeah, it was such a cool couple years there of just working through all of that and bringing what it is today.
Emily, just share with me in your own word, what was the purpose of the rebranding?
Yeah, so thinking back to when, we had the management company and we were managing just a couple communities at the time, and so many were on the horizon. I think where the problem came in for us and the challenge is, how do we unify and look like we're an entire organization, not only a management company, but all these communities that are under our umbrella, with different names, different logos, different looks, feels, missions. We were all over the place. So I think that's when it came to the point of, yes, we need to rebrand and really bring ourselves together and unify us.
Emily, in your opinion, what does a modern, future, forward-looking brand look like?
I think the biggest thing that the brand needs to communicate is just that human side, not only on the residents that we serve, but the staff. We're not just CNAs, nurses that go in every day. There's so many emotions, feelings that go in day out, happiness, sadness, you name it. So I think really pulling in the authenticity piece of it and communicating that, whether it's internal marketing, external marketing, you name it.
And now, having looked back on our journey, how do you think we did?
I think we have learned to embrace the authenticity, whether it's perfect, imperfect, you name it. I think prior we'd always try to show the best, the highlights. We never really showed the realness of it. So I think we're getting better and better at that, just to not only show us internally, but show the world too, that we see everything.
What impact do you think marketing and branding has on the care culture?
And I think we know this best. When we were growing and inquiring communities, they all brought with their own mission, their own, beliefs, culture. And I think once we rebranded, it gave us a point to unify us, as you say, singing from the same hymnal.
Yeah.
Just having that same message and mission from the time somebody starts with our organization, whether they're an employee, somebody moves into one of our communities, from the time they retire or leave, you name it. I think it's the biggest thing of just unifying that message. And when it's all the same, we know how we act, how we talk to people, you name it. We're just all on the same page.
Mm-hmm. What generational gaps do you see existing? And what influence can younger generations have on senior care?
So, as an example, when I came right out of college, I think the biggest thing was not only learning from residents, that generational gap, but the leaders that we have at our communities. The biggest takeaway was just listening and taking it all in, because they've had so much experience. You can learn so much from them, but I think to take it a step further is bringing in what I learned and how the world is today with the whole technology side of things.
Mm-hmm.
How can we bridge that gap and make things more efficient, make processes go smoother? But the biggest takeaway is just that listening aspect of it.
What have you enjoyed the most?
That is a great question. I honestly think, a couple of things come to mind. The first, I never thought I would appreciate now more than ever, is the resident interaction of just seeing them in the hallways, saying hi, asking how they're doing, learning where they grew up, or, being from a small town. Oh, that person.
Yep.
Oh, I know your grandpa.
Yeah,
or
it's the best
you
part.
name it. Exactly. You just grow that network of friends, and then they feel like they become family. And then the second aspect is just through this rebranding journey, the amount I've learned in my time, from starting as a marketing assistant fresh out of college till now, I would have never thought all the opportunities I've had in this.
Is there anything you've dreaded through this process?
I always say the rebrand process was the best and worst time of my career, I feel like, because I learned so much, but there were so many failures in a sense, and I can't view it as failures, but it was learning,
Yeah.
just trial and error of working with different communities or different departments, just trying to find that balancing act of doing the rebrand, bringing in people when you could tell them things. So I would say that piece of it.
So, Emily, you've had all of these really incredible experiences early in your career. How do you think that sets you up for your future?
I think the biggest thing is not being afraid to try new things. I still remember when you told me, oh, we're going to get a drone and you're going to get your license.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how am I supposed to do that? And I think, again, it's just that trial and error of it's not failure, it's learning. If you don't try things, you never know. So I think that's something that I'll take with me forever, wherever my career grows, of just don't be afraid and just try it.
Yeah, that's been one of my favorite things about this whole process is we haven't been afraid to try different things and to break the mold.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious, when you think about the fact that we've kind of had the mantra of let's do things differently. Let's be a disruptor in
if it's been
senior
done,
care.
Don't do it.
Yeah. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, what that means as a young professional coming out of school, working for an organization that's willing to take risks.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a huge blessing, and I'm so grateful for that because, that's the best way you learn. And that's when you figure out what works, what doesn't work. And I think some, organizations or companies out there, it's so tight guidelines of like, you can only be in this lane and that's it.
Right.
Well, then you don't learn. You don't figure out what works best for you.
Yeah. If you could reshape how the next generation views aging and senior living, what message or mindset would you want to leave with them?
I think the biggest thing and this has popped up during the rebrand, is just, it's a new chapter of your life. It's a next chapter. It's not the end. It's not doom and gloom. I think of residents that we see at our communities, they make new friendships, they meet new people, they learn a new hobby, you name it. It's just another chapter of your life. So like I mentioned before, we started this process 2019, 2020, and then fast forward 2 years is when we publicly launched. I think during that 2-year time frame, you and I worked closely together because we couldn't tell anyone the new names or anything. There was a couple people that, we wanted to get their feedback. Were we in the right ballpark? You name it. But I think once that September 20th date hit, and I think even back to the Common Heart event where we showcased everything, just the excitement around it. We started this and how we created it, what we thought of, it just now springboards to our growth in the future.
Right. Oh, that brings back some fun. You remember when we had to run around the office trying to get all of the old branding materials?
Yes.
And get ready for the new launch?
Or the Common Heart event, all the cars we had to hide and find a lot to hold 65 cars.
And then we had to move them to the airport.
That, and then the car batteries that they died, and we were charging them in the parking lot. I mean, again, that was
having to put on 160 license plates in pouring rain.
Yep. So we had to get everything prepped prior, everything branded from the cars, the scrubs, swag, prior to launching Common Heart. So we had to find a location where to park all the cars, hide all the scrubs, the swag, and then we held the event at Monona Terrace in Madison. And seeing all the Common Heart staff come in and the Illuminus staff to, we had the stage and everything. They were going to enjoy a meal, but just feeling the anticipation of the launch. And then once we announced the name, the cars rolled out, and it was funny that, we had lunch already, but the staff all went straight to the cars.
Yes.
They could not wait to see the close-up of it. And just them loving the name too. It was so cool to see.
Yeah. Emily, when I first met you, the very first conversation we had in my office was about you exiting the organization. And I remember talking about that, thinking that you were going to be with us for about 6 months. Yeah. That 6 months was coming to an end. And And I was just thanking you for your time. This was obviously before we did the branding.
Yeah.
And I remember you asking me, "Are you here to fire me?"
And I
And it
feel
was
like,
interesting, your reaction.
yeah. And I think I caught myself off guard to how honest our conversation was.
Yeah,
It wasn't, not that it wasn't professional, but it
yeah,
was just like, oh, okay. Yeah, I had that feeling, but, things have obviously changed fast forward to
yeah.
today. But
Yeah, and when you fast forward, that was what, from that
yeah,
conversation, we talked about, hey, let's rebrand this organization, let's do it together.
yeah.
And that's when we started working with Planet Propaganda.
It did take a couple meetings, though, to
It
push
did.
that we need to rebrand and to pivot and really change of what our organization looks like, not just following into the typical senior living type feel of a brand. So once we got those meetings done, I feel like it was just off to the races of, what's next, what do we want, and all of that.
Yeah. Emily, through this process, you've brought a tremendous amount of energy. What do you think younger professionals can bring to senior care?
I think one thing that stands out, and I've noticed when I started with the organization, I feel like we limit ourselves and we limit our residents. We kind of, oh, they're an older generation. They can't do that. We can't talk about this, and I think that younger generation brings that energy, that breath of, well, why are we limiting ourselves? Why
Hmm.
can't we market ourselves this way? Why can't we have these events at our communities? I think we just need to take off those blinders and those boundaries on ourselves and just, the world is our oyster. We can do
Yeah,
anything. We can't limit ourselves and the residents that we serve.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've really appreciated the fact that you challenged the status quo. And I think that's part of the energy younger professionals bring, and quite frankly, what we need in our
Yep.
industry.
Yep.
So when you think about the younger generations or young professionals coming into senior living, what advice do you have for them?
I think, and I still tell people this, don't say no to things. When you can say yes, because I felt early on, I did that obviously with the rebrand, being a drone pilot, and a whole bunch of other things in there. When you say no or think like, oh, I don't think that's for me, it's amazing when you say yes, what doors open and what you learn, who you meet. Just be open to anything because you'd surprise yourself.
And what excites you most about the senior care industry?
I think the biggest thing, and it's starting now, I think with social media, people aren't afraid to talk about it. I think when I think of TikTok or Instagram, there are individuals out there in the senior living space talking about what they do, whether they're a nurse, that they're in life enrichment, or an executive director. They're really taking the audience behind the scenes of what it means to work in senior living. And I think that's great because it's showing there's so many opportunities within this industry.
Right.
It's, again, like I mentioned before, it's not just clinical roles. There's so much more that impacts residents, their families, and other staff around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I look back, I've grown a lot myself. If you remember when we
Right.
started, I didn't
Right.
even know what Instagram was. I had
TikTok,
had no,
Snapchat.
yeah, I had no experience with any of those, and so it's been fun to work with you to gain a better understanding of those different social media platforms and the impact they can have on our
Yep.
business has been a lot of fun. It's been a real joy for me as we've talked in over the years of working together, and to have done this together, and
Yep.
to have been together for what is now what,
7.
7 years on
Mhm.
this branding journey, and to see it all come to fruition the way that it has, it's been a lot of fun.
And I think it's cool to see, when we started working with Planet Propaganda, when we were picking everything out, deciding what roads we wanted to go down and pass where we want the brand to be. And now we have a full marketing team.
Right,
It's not just you and I
right, that's right.
anymore. That's cool to see, just to see how many people we've added to the team and how much it's grown.
Right, we've gained a lot of sophistication,
Hmm.
and it shows in all the social media posts that we do, and
Yeah. And I think we're finally highlighting what is happening at our campus. It's
Yeah.
not just from an event standpoint or life enrichment standpoint. It's highlighting staff, whether they've been with the organization 6 months or
Right.
30
Yeah.
years. So just really hitting on all those points in our communities.
Yeah. Emily, when you imagine the future of senior living 20 years from now, what do you hope will feel radically different from today?
I think two things. One, and you've mentioned this multiple times before, that people, whether it's potential residents, their families, friends, that they're excited about senior living. They're not afraid to have that conversation. How everyone is excited to retire or go on a trip they've been waiting 10 years for. I want senior living to be part of that plan, that conversation. I want people to say, I can't wait to move to this community. I just really want that to really rise to the front and be a part of people's life plan. And then I think from a career standpoint, that senior living is introduced into schools more, that there are so many career opportunities out there that they're just like, no, I don't want to do that. That I want that to be an option for people.
Emily, thank you for spending this time with me today. I've enjoyed our journey together. It's been a lot of fun over the last few years. It's been fun for me to watch you grow in your role, the energy that you've brought. I've appreciated learning from you and look forward to really continue to change the senior care industry. Thanks for watching. See you next time.